Broadcasting Network, you can tune your computers to the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. Spell out the entire phrase, the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. That's to listen to us via the Christians United Broadcasting Network. I want to thank Troy, compliment Troy for that. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. Thank you for your belief, your trust, and quite frankly, your patience as we have experienced so many difficulties of late. We've taken steps to repair the difficulties, and it seems like we're always doing that. It's a constant battle to stay on the air. I had a conversation, multiple conversations with people today about this very issue, and when they learned of our live listen numbers, the amount of people who listen to the show live, they said, "No, you must be mistaken." And we showed them our reporting stats, the unedited reporting stats. There's no way we can fudge the numbers. And they said, "Holy cow."
We don't have a pay bracket for that amount of listeners.
Yeah, they said, yeah, exactly. For example, Blog Talk, Live 365, and other such outlets or platforms. They were like incredulous. I mean, it was incredulous. They said, "No, we're not sure we can handle the volume. We can't handle the stream," and it was quite the education that I received and we received. But it's a good thing because it means that we're growing, and it means that you're listening, and it means that the word is getting out. So it's a good problem to have. Frustrating indeed, but a very good problem to have. But having said that, Joe, I just and by the way, we're going to be taking your calls during the third and final hour of tonight's show. We've got so much information to get into because we missed last night.
Anybody who is living through the martial law, living in Boston, call in. Tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're at ground zero, so to speak, in the if you're within arms or your sight distance of what is taking place in Boston, in the suburb of Boston, call in, and if you're in Watertown, call in and advise us what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what is taking place. Because, folks, this is going to dominate. This subject is going to dominate the majority of the program.
Yeah, we have tanks on the streets pretty much. They're new armored vehicles. There are reports on Twitter that gun confiscations were taking place. I have not confirmed that anywhere else, but those are only initial reports. They were telling people to stay in their homes, keeping their doors locked. Now, apparently, as I was uploading the latest clip of the current news on the situation in Boston, suspects, well, one was dead, they were looking for another, they apprehended the second one or are currently in the process of executing him. I'm not sure how that played out or what's going on because I can't see a TV, but...
Yeah, actually, I'm watching the monitor here, in the studio monitor, and if I swing it to you, it would cause probably a cable issue. But the bottom line with this is, I guess we could take it from the top. Here's a timeline of events, and really, with all the speculation, with all of the, just all the
what we should do here is, because the suspects, the two they say are the ones carried out the bombings, I haven't seen any videotape of them dropping the bombs. They obviously have surveillance tape of the whole situation, which they're not releasing to the public for some reason. But I want to see proof that these two gentlemen put these backpacks down and walked away, and that's what detonated. Is that too much to ask from a place that was obviously surveilled by more than one camera? A place that had military people there monitoring it?
They do have still videos of still images from the videos taken of the two suspects. And let's just be real clear here right now. Here, just so everyone knows, suspect number 1, who is deceased, His name is Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Okay, Tamerlan Tsarnaev. That's suspect number one. That's the older of the two brothers. He was dead. Suspect number two, Johar Tsarnaev, the younger brother, now, in a potential gunfight with the police and the paramilitary forces on Franklin Street in Watertown, Massachusetts. This at 8:08 p.m. Eastern Time on April 19, 2013. According to the latest reports, the younger of the two, Johar Tsarnaev, is held is captured or surrounded in a boat that is parked in the rear of a residence at 67 Franklin Street in Watertown, Massachusetts. Picture, folks, if you will, a boat covered, winterized, covered with a tarp on a trailer, parked behind the residence. And now it's interesting because prior to the police checked this boat apparently earlier because there was blood stains near the door or near the boat or somewhere around the boat, and came up empty. This is the first report, and then police were called back to the scene a short time later and observed a man believed to be the suspect inside underneath the tarp and moving around, so definitely alive, although allegedly wounded. But let me just very quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Joe and open the discussion up here. The entire series, this latest foray of incidents began at 5:10 yesterday when investigators released photos and video. And as Joe pointed out, the video was limited, but videos of the two suspects. So therefore, at 5:10 p.m. yesterday, the photographs and the video was released. And therefore, at least in the suspects' minds and those who knew them, they were identified as the suspects. At 10:30 yesterday p.m., and this is all Eastern Time, MIT campus police officer who was responding to a disturbance was found shot in his cruiser, apparently by the suspects. Now, he was later pronounced dead. Minutes later, two armed men reportedly carjacked a Mercedes SUV in Cambridge.
Okay, can you stop and back up a sec?
Yeah, I can. Yes, I can.
I did not hear about the cop officers being killed. Can you go over that one more time, just that part?
Well, okay. At 10:30, an MIT campus police officer who was responding to a disturbance was found shot in his cruiser. Apparently shot by the suspects. He was later pronounced dead. Now, there's a whole subplot to that, of course. I'm just going over the highlights, and we'll get into every highlight and every inconsistency or every aspect of this as we go through this. But like I said, a short time later. Now, you have to understand, you're talking within a 20-mile radius here, or perhaps even shorter than that or smaller than that, but the police ultimately pursue this carjacked vehicle, this carjacked Mercedes SUV from Cambridge, from where the officer was shot, into Watertown, Massachusetts, where explosive devices along this or during this chase were thrown from the carjacked vehicle. In the carjackers, meaning the suspects and police, exchanged gunfire. Transit police officer, at least one, was seriously wounded, and one suspect, later identified as the older brother, as I mentioned, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, 26 years old, was dead. He was killed. As a matter of fact, during the escape in the Mercedes, and this is what is reported, the younger brother ran over the older brother. Now, we do have a photograph, and I believe this is now made public, but we received a photograph of the older brother on the morgue table with a gaping wound to his left chest, as if somebody had taken a sword and sliced his left chest, and of course a bullet hole below that, and his face was not disfigured, but discolored to an extent that it showed either pre or post-mortem trauma. I would suspect pre-mortem trauma. That picture, if you hunt for it, I'm sure you'll find it on the internet if you are so inclined. That brings us up to the situation this morning, as been following this since 3:30 this morning.
You're real choppy.
Okay, we've been following this since 3:30 this morning. Actually, the chase, the manhunt, the special martial law. Okay, well, there's.
Can you hear me, Chuck?
I can hear nothing but this thing. That's we're looking at the established here.
Okay. I'll come back.
No, hold on. Okay, now how does this sound?
Much better.
All right, what I did here, just so people know, or just so you know, Joe, that and Troy, I readjusted my microphone settings. I'm not sure exactly how that does interface with Skype, but nonetheless, okay. So the after the series of events, when Bostonians had awakened, they were told to shelter in place. To shelter in place, and they brought in roughly 9,000 armed police officers to hunt down a 19-year-old man, and essentially closed Boston, Watertown, Cambridge, and all of the surrounding areas, told everyone to stay inside, shelter in place, and not come out. This is a very dangerous and a very fluid situation. And as I said, we've been following this since 3:30 this morning. My question, and I know Joe has numerous questions, is what we're not being told. And what we're not being told is plenty. We see, as does the world, the chase, the manhunt for the suspect, the 19-year-old suspect. And by the way, the media is doing a great job of pulling the most innocuous-looking photographs and posting them for your consumption. Meaning to say that how could this young man with this baby face possibly do this? Be involved in a heinous crime like this?
How could the young Adam Lanza go shoot up children in an elementary school?
Exactly.
Now, there's a lot of problems I have with this situation, and I'm sure you've seen all of them as we've kind of went over some, and others I sent to you, and I'm pretty sure you looked at. We have
right
what these other people, InfoWars has done a good job of pointing these out. These other culprits, they're called, the people of interest who were wearing the Blackwater-style hats, the skull hats, carrying the backpacks on cell phones with military cargo pants on and boots, same matching shoes. And the shoes are important. And I know this and remember from a video watching demonstrators and protesters at a G20 summit, and they had the infiltrators tipping over dumpsters and setting small fires. You know, the police that go in there to start up riots inside the protests, the provocateurs, they all wore the same shoes. And you could tell who they were. They got to the point where they went to hide behind the cop lines dressed up in all anarchist gear because they were identified out in the public. And but that's what these guys look like.
On the show today, tomorrow. Are we back? We have another option with audio. All right, let me just double check this here. All right, we this is when I was on with a very close friend to the forces that he recognized obviously the boots the used of the suspect in to were tired and so you know all of our focus everyone all and everything really needed to the governor and the mayor to step up of pictures or grouping of pictures when grouping are not being any picture. There's a lot of not being one direction the images on the news. Still, we have to see let the government show us what they want to show us. And this is the thing too, is as this progresses, the system is becoming more and more. The people and then less complicated information, and everything is compiled. And let us take a look at what we have versus what they have, and then we can with narrative that we're able to at that point formulate and then reasonable questions.
Welcome to CUBN. these two people. The so-called Saudi person of interest suspected Obama and Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Saud.
Welcome to CUBN.
Obviously, very Middle Eastern appearance to the individual.
Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. If you desire to speak to the host, please press 1 at any time, and the host will be notified that there is a caller in queue. Otherwise, please hold and you will be able to listen to the show.
Federal agency signed the media for reporting statement. The source of unintended consequences reference the conference itself. More than after they had announced that they've been arrested for that was denied. And I don't know how many times this particular we had. Reported Al-Harbi, of course, was put under armed guard. That was the guy, by the way, that was put under armed guard in the remember the story about that, and he was visited, by the way, by diplomat and later had his apartment raided by federal and state law enforcement agents. This goes back, folks. This goes back actually a family. Loosely, I shouldn't say this is correct, but this is loosely family. Florida, a week rarely has the news even more tellingly. The news was announced right.
You have a caller.
All right.
Are we being victimized right now as we speak?
Mm,
It would seem that way, wouldn't it? It would seem that we are. Because, we had to cancel last evening's show.
all right, I'm live. Okay. You guys can hear us loud and clear. Hear me loud and clear. Hey, Dad, give it up. Yeah, my father continues to talk, and nobody can hear a word you're saying. Seriously, nobody has heard a word you said. But you can connect to Cuban on Skype or live on Justin TV, and we will continue to broadcast. And let me catch our bearings.
What do I do?
Call Troy. Call Troy. Yeah. BTR says they can hear your show and you're in and out, but mostly out. Oh, yeah. Thanks for that. Guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight and having the patience. Obviously, this is out of our hands as it looks as if Blog Talk Radio is under some kind of attack. I don't know if this will clear up. They said that they've been working on it, and it should clear up. They said yesterday it should be clear after 7 p.m. Then when it was our time to go live, they said if you have a show, it's a good idea to reschedule it.
That was yesterday.
Yes, it was. And now they're still having problems. And I know Tribulation News did a show earlier. She said she was cut off in the middle of her show. I guess that's when things started. And we did Pastor Paul Begley yesterday. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this last night because we weren't on air last night. Go check out his archives. Yesterday's show, The Coming Apocalypse, from Thursday. We did 2 hours with him. It was a fantastic show. And his website got taken down. The Blog Talk stayed up. After his show was over, people started having problems on Blog Talk. And that's when their problems started. And it's lasted through to today. My father especially, have been working on numerous other outlets. We've planned and have been working on expanding, but I guess they're forcing our hand to do it faster.
Well, yeah.
I don't know how else to say it.
And I'm not sure how much of the program people heard. I mean, we're 33 minutes into our broadcast and counting. I'm not sure if how much people have heard. I'm not sure if we're talking live to anyone. I'm not sure where we're talking to be honest with you.
We're talking on Justin TV through
All
Christians United Broadcasting
All
Network.
Right. Is there any way to ask the people from BTR in the chat to come over and join us on the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com? Now, folks, you have to spell that out. The Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. You have to spell that out. I don't know if anyone heard anything that I said during the last 30 minutes. I got you. All right. Let me just kind of reintroduce a couple of things, highlight a few things of importance, and then we'll get right on to other matters. Tomorrow night, we are scheduled to have a broadcast with Steve Quayle and Pastor David Langford. That's tomorrow night from 9 to midnight
a special broadcast with Steve Quayle and Pastor David Langford, 9 to midnight Eastern Time. We hope that will we will be able to have that succeed. I'm half tempted to ask them to reschedule, but at this point, I'm putting my faith in God that things will work out. Now, we had to, in a very unprecedented move last night against my wishes, against my wishes, but what are you going to do? Because BTR had system-wide problems, we had to cancel our show. Something I would never want to do. Now, we have redundancy built up in the system, but there's the weak link in the chain, of course, is the interface platform, which is Blog Talk Radio. Now, I just want to say this because, reiterate this again. We did make some contacts today, and we showed our numbers, our listener numbers, to various other companies that provide such services as Blog Talk Radio. And each one had said, no, those numbers they can't be right, until they checked with BTR, who said, no, those numbers are correct. We are actually, I'm not going to tell you how many, I'll just say this, they were astounded by the listeners. Now, that's not a pat on our back as much as it is perhaps a reason for the strain on the system. Perhaps we're the reason for the strain on the system, but more than that, that tells me that there's this need, this desire for the truth, and we're providing it. And we've been approached by a couple of different people, networks, entities, and I've got to tell you that we're looking at each one. Some come with strings attached, others don't. Obviously, regardless of which avenue we would select, we're thinking of the listeners first, but we must retain editorial control. Barring that, we would not go with that. So that's to kind of bring you up to date. So I've got to tell you this, we are not taking this lying down every waking moment that goes by, and even this morning being assured by Blog Talk, hey, we're not going to have any problems, and then 1 hour before the show is having somebody say, well, we're under a denial of service attack. I'm sorry. This is not going to work out for tonight, or you might have problems tonight. It's very frustrating for us. Listener fatigue sets in very quickly, and we understand that. But just to go back very quickly, the big news today, the Boston Marathon, the suspects, we have 2 suspects identified. Suspect number 1 is the older man. His name is Tamerlan Sarnayev, and he's dead. He was killed during the night. And suspect number 2, Johar Sarnayev, 19, and at the moment he is he is allegedly inside a covered winterized boat behind a residence at 67 Franklin Street in Watertown, and authorities are now have him surrounded and dealing with him in that respect. But we'd gone through the timeline very briefly. 5:10 o'clock or 5:10 yesterday afternoon, investigators released their photos, the video of the 2 suspects. At 10:30 last evening, the 2 suspects reportedly shot and killed an MIT campus police officer who was responding to a disturbance call. That started a chase. The 2 armed men reportedly carjacked a Mercedes SUV in Cambridge, held a man who was in the vehicle for about a half hour, released him unharmed, that is. Police pursued the carjacked vehicle to Watertown, from Cambridge to Watertown. 100 miles an hour. Explosive devices were thrown from the vehicle, the carjacked vehicle. The carjackers and police exchanged fire, and of course, one transit police officer was seriously wounded. One suspect, later identified as the older of the two, Tamerlan, 26-year-old man, was killed. And it's reported that during the chase, the younger man actually ran over his brother in trying to get away. About 1 o'clock this morning, gunshots, explosions were heard in around Watertown. Police and FBI converged on the town. Helicopters overhead. It was like a scene from, I don't know, pick a movie. And then at 4:30 this morning, and we were watching this in real time beginning at about 3:30 this morning. About 4:30, Watertown residents were told to stay in their homes, shelter in place. Carjackers were indeed at that point identified as the marathon bombing suspects. Now, that's the thumbnail sketch up until now, and as I said, now they've got about 9,000. That's a conservative number of police officers. 25,000 is a more likely number of police and paramilitary, National Guard, and other forces out again to find this 19-year-old man. Now, so folks, put this in perspective, and then after, I think I've probably given Joe enough time to get things set. Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Blog Talk Radio. It's really aggravating to go through this, and I'll have the video up on Justin TV in a little bit because
are we gonna go with
that's
video?
what we're on right now. We're on Justin TV
because I can turn on the video as well.
I don't know.
All right, but do we successfully? Let me ask you this again. Live radio is just great, isn't it? And listener fatigue, I understand. Do we have were enough people notified via chat or other means to?
I sent you a link at Skype to put it up on your site. For our live show right now, I'm going to do the same, putting it up on Facebook.
Okay, all right.
But what the problem with BTR is the denial of service attacks. They said they were experiencing it again. The technicians listened to you talking, said they couldn't hear anything but muffledness, and that it was probably a good idea to end the show on Blog Talk. So there's not going to be an archive over there for tonight, which is really, this is one of the things that gets me, is that was one of the best features of Blog Talk. It puts it out on the podcast. Right. People can download it on their phones. People can download it on their iTunes. A lot of people don't have the ability to listen live. So the archived section is valuable to us. In 2 days of no radio show, I mean, if we knew this was going to happen, we could have planned a vacation. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is another thing too.
Or done videos all day on YouTube.
Well, exactly. And I think what we're going to do is, depending, and folks, I'm going to throw this out there, Joe, and I'm going to throw this out to you live too. If nothing else, we can certainly do video YouTubes for public consumption based on the information we know now.
We're going to have to.
Yeah, okay, we can do that, and then, but see, folks, are we looking at? And I'll throw this out to the listeners who can hear me. What, both of you?
No, there's some listeners over there.
Okay, are we experiencing right now? Is this the beginning? And I have to ask that question, Joe. Is this the beginning of what this is going to look like a month from now, or 2 months from now, or 6 months from now?
I'll tell you, it's very troublesome to see. It's a good thing it's not just our show that is having problems on Blog Talk. It's all the shows, pretty much. Yesterday, they were down. I mean, we know how much sound problems we usually have on a regular basis. Now, the question is, the internet infrastructure? Is this being caused? Are these denials? I see it on Dredge all the time. I don't know how many people visit that site, but lately, if you go to visit it, it'll take you to couldn't connect the page, and you have to refresh it to get to it.
I've actually talked to 3 different webmasters of sites that have incredible traffic, who have said this week has been the worst nightmare of a week in terms of connection, whether it's updating their sites or even communicating. And one company, I've got to tell you this, one company, I'll just tell you, it's GE. They use a specific portion of the internet, and they talked to a gentleman there who said that it was absolutely impossible to use that segment of the internet for the communications that they usually do so. So what has changed in the last 5 days?
Let me tell you this, and Chad just made a great point. This is something we were going to cover tonight, and we should and will cover it. CISPA was passed. It's not signed into law yet. We know that they have released the executive order presentation. What is it? Executive Order 13636 on cybersecurity infrastructure. What is cybersecurity infrastructure? Is this what we're seeing now, being taken out? The infrastructure of cybersecurity?
Is this to get us to beg for CISPA? or say thank you for CISPA?
No. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. We do so much appreciate your vigilance and patience with these issues, as they are out of our hands for the most part. And those of you who've been listening to us for a while, we've been through very high-end equipment down to the lowest amount of equipment you can use, and there's no difference really, it seems. We needed to expand, as I said, different outlets, and this is really forcing our hand. We're going to have to move faster, make some decisions, and get some things done.
Even our redundancy system has been affected because, once again, it interfaces with BTR, and it relies on certain elements of BTR. And I won't get into how it does, but in the case of a denial of service attack against the infrastructure there, that does affect our redundancy. Now, I've spoken to others about satellite. I've spoken to some people today about shortwave. I've spoken to people about terrestrial. I've spoken to people about pure television and using our studio broadcast from. I mean, we broadcast from our studio. In fact, I got a good education about how Alex Jones, for example, runs his studio and where his calls come from and how he, where the signals go and what satellites. And I've got pages and pages of notes, but I got to tell you something. Okay, unless you've got $250,000, it ain't gonna fly. You're not gonna do it.
I have an idea though. WQLN has a small station up in our city, so does a local popular college have their own station? We can just go take those over because they don't provide useful information anyway. Right?
Do we do that at gunpoint, or do we do that? How do we do that?
I think our appearance would scare them off.
Probably, yeah. No blue dots this time, but look, folks that can hear us. I'm not really going to be able to put a notice on our website to go over to our Hagmann, the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. So
I'm putting them up on Facebook.
Okay, that's fine. All right, but again, the news is what's important. The information is what's important. If we can get this out, and like I said, okay, to do this properly, unless you've got $250,000 to actually put into the initial cost, and that doesn't even include the monthly cost.
I have a quarter.
You got a quarter, right? No. But see, that's where we're at. And of course, you would think in the individuals I've spoken with, they've said, "Wow, with the listening base that you've got, you should be like you should be. In fact, I'll just come out and say this: you should be able to make it through sponsorships alone. You should be charging X amount of dollars per sponsor. I'm not going to get into the numbers, but my goodness, it's incredible. In fact, we're giving Oprah Winfrey a run for her money, and people who have and well-intentioned people who have said, "Oh, we'll go to Live 365 or go to TalkStream Live or this or that."
Yeah.
That
There's no pay grade option for the amount of listeners we have.
that's exactly right. Thank you. So, thank you for your emails, the hundreds of emails we've gotten. But understand this: it's a different scenario. So,
but we're not going anywhere, regardless.
We're not going anywhere. No, we're not. No.
If we have to broadcast with Christians United Broadcasting Network and our own Ustream thing until we can find another outlet, we're going to do that. We're going to do whatever we have to do to get the information to you. If we have to do our broadcast over YouTube for a couple days till we get settled, because our YouTube channel, we're allowed to upload videos that are, as long as we want. We could do a whole 3-hour show on YouTube. Just wouldn't be live, but
right.
We will do whatever it takes to make sure we get the message to you. And we want you to know that.
Yeah, and please, please. I know listener fatigue runs really, really high. So you can only take so much of this before you say, you know what, I've had enough of this. And once again, I ask the question: is this the time? Is it now? Are we seeing this now? And if we are seeing it now, then we have to. Personally, I don't think we are, and for a number of reasons. If we did. If it was the time, there would be other other things happening simultaneously, and I'll stop there because I'm not going to give out what we know to the people who might be listening that know what we know. Now, before I was cut off, and just I want to bring this up one last time here. I gave you the thumbnail sketch of the timeline with these two suspects, folks. Remember back April 21st, 2004? Sure you do. Look, the fact, I just want to go over a couple of things. The fact that at least these two individuals remained in Boston indicates to analysts, especially analyst named Archangel, who's very, very good at ferreting out these suspects, these cells, and has provided a lot of information to the government. But the fact that they remain in Boston does suggest that they are here and were here and stayed here to kill and possibly die, but to cause much more chaos and killings. And if the police do not bag each and everyone in this cell, and believe me, it is a cell. Now, how this cell is being used is something totally different, but the cell, let's call it that for now, then Boston may be in for a rough few days. It's very unlikely, folks, given the pedigree of these individuals, Chechnyan pedigree, that there are only two.
Do we know that these people are the people who carried out the attack? 100% certainty. I mean, do we have proof of that?
Well, and that's what I was trying to get across before. Do we know? Let's let the government say that these are, in fact, the individuals and provide the proof. But let's operate for the moment that they are. If they are, then they've got to have a support system, a team of other terrorists. And we're talking anywhere between 8 to a dozen within this support system. And this is based on someone's many years as a terrorism researcher studying these groups and their philosophies. Now, they obviously had explosives on them. They're mobile and unaccounted for. They were mobile and unaccounted for, at least for a time. And my question, too, is when they grabbed that Mercedes, they carjacked that Mercedes, and were throwing the bombs out of that vehicle, exactly how does that work? Were they carrying a duffel bag? I mean, were they carrying? I mean, how does that work? You've got to ask the question. These are not like hand grenades that are fashioned by these individuals. But think about this: the theater in Moscow. There was no regard for the victims. They were ready to die themselves. Now, soft targets if all of the people in this cell aren't killed, soft targets like schools, hospitals, subways, buses, that's in their short-term planning, especially schools. The fact that they weren't suicidal in their attacks 4 days ago, there's a reason for that. And the reason, according to the consensus of analysts that I've spoken with, that they still had more work to do. Now, since they've been identified, however, this may have interrupted their plans, at least their short-term plans, and they will, in fact, die for their cause, as we have seen, as opposed to be taken alive. So, but beyond that, I just want to mention that don't forget that in April 21st, folks, April 21st, 2004, the pro-Moscow president of Chechnya, Hagmann, was killed in a bomb attack in the capital of Grozny. The reports initially at the time said that this occurred at Dynamo Stadium. It varied between 6 and more than 30, but Russian President Putin said Mr. Kadyrov was a true hero and vowed revenge for the attack thought to have been carried out by Chechen rebels. And who do we see in this on this Boston Marathon but Chechen rebels, as they would be termed by any type of terrorist analyst. So they are Chechen rebels. Are we witnessing, ladies and gentlemen, the backlash? Because, see, these Chechen rebels that went after the Chechen president back in 2004, as they grew up and assimilated here, or came here to this country, immigrated to this country, are we seeing kind of a tit-for-tat scenario, especially given our presence and our pushing toward toppling the Assad regime in Syria? Okay, now I know that you might think, well, that's a pretty big leap between Chechnya and Syria, but not really, because the common factor here is Russia, and Putin vowed revenge on those who carried out the attacks. And were the attacks on the 2004 attacks part of a larger plan that involved training, like we saw in Benghazi, for the anti-Assad rebels? So all of this is food for thought. Once again, a part of a larger chess game that you're not going to hear on the news. You're going to see the cute, cuddly photographs of a innocent 19-year-old from Facebook photographs and from school photographs, not from the AK-47 images and the bomb-making images you see in real life. So we are being sold an official narrative, ladies and gentlemen, that may not be 100% accurate. Joe, are we? How are we doing on the studio thing? Are we up and running?
Yeah, we're on Justin TV, on audio only, about 240 over there, and about 75 in chat. And
I want to thank you folks for joining us on that, in that venue. And once again, if you can just notify, let your friends, family, neighbors, and therapists by this time, which you may need, know that we are on the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com, compliments of the Christians United Broadcasting Network. And if we have to, we will, do this until such matters are cleared up. Now, tomorrow we do have a program scheduled from 9 to midnight. Pastor David Langford, along with Steve Quayle. Very important program. We do hope that we can do this without a hitch.
The basis of God's judgment, and it's time for followers of Jesus to man up and stand up for the King of Glory.
It should be an interesting program. I spoke with, during the course of all of these issues, sound issues and radio issues, I spoke with Pastor Langford today, who actually built a studio And I talked with the gentleman who built his studio, and we went through some things and possibilities, and like I said, yeah, the I'm not sure. First you'd have to actually acquire a studio building separate from any type of office building, because you'd have to have dish antennas and other antennas. Think of Art Bell in Pahrump, Nevada, where he was out in the middle of nowhere, and he had a huge antenna, and then you just can't put that up in an office complex. You just can't do that.
No. Some of the news we're going to be hitting tonight is the, aside from the Boston situation and the Texas, we have an update on the Texas fertilizer explosion. And
yes, that's very curious.
The IRS expected to target small businesses this year. That's interesting.
Oh, joy.
Yeah. DNA sequencing, a serious risk to your privacy. And with that article, I have Obama wants to get inside your brain. Through DARPA's Brain Initiative, they want to learn, as a matter of national security, how to control your brain with the internet. And in order to do this, the goal is the emergent level of understanding also could enable accurate diagnosis and restoration of normal patterns of activity to injured or diseased brains, foster development of broader biomedical and environmental applications, and even potentially generate a host of associated economical benefits. Now, whose brain is diseased? Do we know? Well, they've told us. The pro-gun people, the Republicans, I think it's even come out in some of the psychological manuals. I mean, everybody who is not a fall-in-line, diehard communist, socialist, Nazi like these people, the Satanists. If we believe in Jesus, we are, according to DSM 4 and 5,
right,
we are mentally diseased. So are they going to fix this through integrating our brains with computers, or trying to? And how are they going to go about doing that?
Well, exactly. And, of course, you had mentioned CISPA passing the U.S. House, the death of the Fourth Amendment, perhaps. And is this related to other aspects of things, other parts of things in the news? Now, Joe, it's at the top of the hour. How are we going to handle breaks? Do we have the ability to take the top of the hour break for probably the one station or two stations left that do simulcast their show?
I'm not sure. Obviously, we don't have the control. If Troy has commercials, I'm not sure if we send him individual files, but how about we just do no breaks and do live commercials? We can.
I think Troy said I'll do it. So, Troy, if we can cut to break, give us about 2.5 minutes. We're going to be back right after these messages. I want to thank the Christians United Broadcasting Network, who offer seamless coverage, unlike others. Seamless coverage. That's the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for this, the 19th day of April 2013. Stay with us. Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilida Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seats. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, folks, to a very special and twisted edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this 19th day of April 2013, as we wait patiently as Blog Talk Radio gets their affairs in order from their denial of service attacks, which you have to wonder, will this end with a whimper or with a bang?
Is this the beginning of the end for the internet?
Well, at least for the internet, in terms of these types of
services, certain services,
Yeah.
I mean, we see Facebook is cracking down on news that is coming out, censoring people from posting news-related information. We have YouTube doing the same thing, citing in some cases they use the copyright rule. Some cases they say it's not allowed for whatever the content is too controversial. But there is definitely a change in the internet in the last week. We were told about this, and that things might change.
Right.
And from the same person who said that, it's not good. I'm not going to entertain those thoughts, but basically the internet won't be the internet as we know it anymore.
No, and it's, but I think we're going to have time. I don't think I think that this is probably like a beta test, if you will. This is a way to check to see what the outcry or what the reaction will be, because like anything else, the government does. It doesn't happen in an obvious fashion. It's not an obvious, shall we say, an obvious crackdown or an obvious...
Right. And somebody in chat, Steve, you make a great point. The timing of these internet anomalies where people can't get on their alternative news, people who are not having their own servers or don't have the ability to basically have their own station. These people like us who rely on Blog Talk Radio, but don't rely on them, we pay them.
Right, exactly.
Hello? No, I'm kidding.
That's our sound effects calling.
We pay them, but their services are knocked down at a time when, look at all the chaos that's happening around the world in, 3-4 days, 5 days? We've had I know they put the one earthquake down to a 6.6, but 3 7.0 above earthquakes this week. That's not
amazing.
normal. That is anything but normal. I'll tell you this too. And for those who have the time and understand what I mean, the stars are not right. There's something wrong with the sky.
That's an odd thing to say.
Well, I'm 100% sure, 110% sure. How about that? Yeah, I witnessed
well, when you say that, though, I mean,
okay, let me give you an idea. You're watching outside, and I don't have, where I'm watching the sky, I might have 40% ability. I can see 40% of the sky if I move around to different places. I have houses and trees in the way, and I use those as landmarks. So, to give you an example, if I think something is moving out of the ordinary, I'll lean up against my house and position myself where I can put that star right above or below
a certain something fixed.
When I see that star jumping up and down and then going all the way, to the other side of the sky and then coming back, yeah, I'd say that's wrong. And these aren't planes.
Well, it's obviously not a star.
Well, no, these were stars, or they were something else. But they appear to be normal stars that you see in the right position where they start from, and they venture off a little bit and they come back. And I know it sounds crazy. People are probably like, this guy's out there hallucinating, but no, not at all. I am 100% sure of it, and it's crazy. But people pay attention to the sky at night if you have time and it's clear.
Interesting. Well, who knows what that means actually. Look, I get that, but you also have the environmental aspects of it, the pollution, the things that could make it appear like things are moving or not moving or not exactly correct. But having said that, I
don't know if it's even something everybody can see or not. I have no idea, and it's not just that I can see it, but I wonder why. It's very obvious to me. It's not direct. I mean, it's not just me seeing these things. That would be impossible.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean,
there have to be other people out here witnessing these things.
I have not looked up. I have not had the time to go outside and look up at the stars. And even if I did, of course, with the clouds and it wouldn't. If we ever had a clear night here, perhaps I could. I mean, it's semi-clear, but it's not totally clear. Maybe I could relate to that. But we are seeing the signs, as Pastor Begley said. We're seeing the signs in the skies. We're seeing them on the earth. I mean, sinkholes swallowing cars and people and houses, and we've got earthquakes in diverse places. We've got so all of this together. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see these strange things happen in the sky. My goodness, it wouldn't surprise me. So maybe this is the beginning of the end, or certainly not the end of the beginning, but the beginning of the end. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's both. But it's interesting that you point that out.
What I do know is that when I was watching that, and because after shows, if it's clear out, and even when it's mostly cloudy, I'll go out and see weird things. But I've felt led to just come on there and make sure I made the point tonight to let people know the stars are not right.
Interesting. Well, again, look, I'm not going to say that what you're seeing is wrong or is incorrect, because I have seen some strange things as well, but not of late. But nonetheless, and I do remember, and you remember as a younger man, we stopped and saw Comet Kahutek. Remember that? On the over the water, over the lake, and how awesome that was. But yeah, there's a lot. There are a lot of things that do change, or or a lot of things that have changed or are changing. So we have to keep our eyes on that. But look, more toward the other things that we should, less ethereal. Let me go back to just really quickly, because I got this email. I wanted to make sure that I touched on this. This is about Boston. This gentleman, Ron, from outside of Boston, writes to me. Oh, please don't use my name. Well, Ron, there's a lot of Rons in Boston, I'm sure. I'm having doubts with all of this, meaning to say all of this manhunt. This was sent to me at 3:00 this afternoon. I have never seen so many cops, so many tank type vehicles in such a small area. The whole city is on lockdown, and in a police state controlling the whole thing. I didn't really get this when this first started, but as time moves on, I'm beginning to wonder whether all of this is really for one man, and if we're really being told the truth. Please give me your thoughts on this. Please mention this on your program. Signed, Ron, from, believe it or not, Chelsea, Massachusetts. Chelsea, Massachusetts. So, and also, we're seeing the methodology that they are exporting, that the federal government is exporting to other states and cities, and sooner than people would have ever dared to have imagined, the massive presence at the marathon of police, now this gentleman is referring to, was evidence that the federal government had, or at least one would think, had some level of knowledge of likely terrorist activities, given once again, the massive police presence there, the presence of bomb-sniffing dogs, and the use of them at the beginning of the race and the announcements. Yet they continue to deny their heavy presence, at least at the race, and deny the video evidence of the same, telling us that they are trying, which tells us that they are trying desperately to herd the foolish masses by having us look in one place while they might be doing this or other things in other places. So that people there at the scene are saying this is out of place. This is not right. This is something that they haven't seen before, and they're suspecting this is a run up to martial law. This is a beta test for martial law. This is a beta test for something larger, given the fact that this is one 19-year-old against an army of anywhere between 9,000 to 20,000, depending on who you ask. Is this what we're seeing? I mean, is this in fact is what we're seeing play out before our eyes in the media, on our televisions? Are we getting the truth? Now, there are a lot of Twitters. We've been monitoring Twitter feed, and the Twitter feed is mirroring these very same thoughts. There were reports, Joe, earlier today that the shelter-in-place order was merely a suggestion. However, I've seen on multiple Twitter feeds where people have exited their residence for one reason or another, and ultimately told and escorted back into their homes by state police and paramilitary police, escorted back into their homes. And I also have a report at 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time, where in one particular segment, by the looks of this map that was sent to me, it would appear to be, I don't know, looks like maybe it's not laid out too well, maybe 6 or 8 blocks one direction and maybe 4 blocks the other direction, that they were going house to house. These officers were actually entering houses and going through the houses Okay, here, I'm just double checking. I'm getting a message right now. Okay. There we go. All right, we're okay. But anyway, I was getting messages this morning where the same thing was happening in another part of Boston, where these police officers were actually removing people from their houses. And one comment on a Twitter feed, unfortunately, I can't find it now. I was looking for it prior to the showtime, saying that it felt like they were engaging in a type of a drill, which I understand that feeling, especially if you're awakened by police officers early in the morning. But is this something more? Is there something more to this? Could they be looking? Could they be looking for something else? Joe, what are your thoughts? Could they be looking for something else, or could it be, or could it be exactly what it is? I mean,
honestly, I can't tell you. I'm not there. I don't believe a word anybody else says anymore as far as reporting. When you see CNN change their story so many times, whether it was because of the person they had in custody or I have no idea. Since the Chris Dorner episode thing, all those policemen were shooting other people in mistaken identity, or I couldn't even say that because it obviously wasn't a mistaken identity. When you stop somebody, notice they're not the person you're looking for and shoot them anyway, whatever that is. But something is changing to a point that we've not seen. There are things and forces, like it says in Ephesians, we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places. We are seeing a veil lifting, and we could be coming out. I mean, this could be, who knows, the end of the birth pains, beginning of the tribulation. I'm not trying to set times here, but things are different. We're getting to another level of intensity of not only news, but environmental problems, the fish dying, the weather anomalies, the things we see in the sky anomalies, the sinkholes, everything. The earthquakes, like I said, there is so many big earthquakes recently. The news is so out of whack in itself. North Korea. What happened in North Korea? They were going to launch a bomb, and then tomorrow, or then next Wednesday, and then that went away. But we do have, apparently, Chinese soldiers in India. We have Japan and China on their not moving forward, from what I see, in confrontation. We have Iran and Israel, where I saw, I think Netanyahu came out, or a U.S. representative came out and talked about a strike on Iran. Things are just so different from what they were this time last month that I don't know what to believe. What I want to see, before I will say these people are guilty of what they did, is I want to see video of them putting the packages or book bags down at the places that exploded. And that's not too hard to ask because I know they have the footage. So release the footage. And while you're at it, release the footage of the Pentagon, Sandy Hook, and all the other cases of these false flag terror incidents that nobody knows, or nobody has any idea of real facts, only what the government and the media tell them, and they stick with it. And things continue to happen to where they forget about old things. And until I see a video showing these two gentlemen, or terrorists, whichever they are, putting the explosive backpacks down and watching them explode after they did that, I won't be convinced. And then even seeing a video, depending on how long it takes to be released, I might not be convinced.
Well, just to give you an idea, too, I just want to say this. If you're looking at these two suspects, just looking at them alone, and I don't know how, if the mainstream media covered this, the family entered the United States in 2002, Some reports put him in coming into the United States in 2000. Others have 2002. Even
they
a
said
third,
he became an American citizen on September 11th, and he was
in
interviewed by the
2007.
FBI. He was interviewed by the FBI 2 times due to ties to an extremist group by the FBI.
Which one, though? Both of them? All of them? Do we know? We don't know. See,
I do know. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the first one. The first one who was killed.
Okay. Well, now this comes, and would this surprise anyone? Where actually Johar Tsarnaev, the man who is now eluding custody as of 8:08 p.m. Eastern Time. He was awarded a $2,500 scholarship in 2011. The city awarded him a $2,500 scholarship to him and 44 others, using contributions from citizens and businesses. So, how does that feel, ladies and gentlemen? How does that make you feel that you actually gave this young man, a scholarship? Okay, do we give them the benefit of the doubt? But once again, we have to look where they're coming from. This was a 2011 scholarship, so that was 2 years ago. And in fact, he posted on his Russian Facebook account, he listed Cambridge Rindge and Latin School as the last school he went to, and Boston as his current city. I've got his Facebook profile up here. He's got 8 followers. His worldview, folks, you want to guess what it is? His worldview is Islam. His personality priority is career and money. The photographs on this Facebook account, they're interesting in terms of showing him as this very gentle-looking, young, innocent, naive person. All right. What have we learned so far? Seriously, what have we learned tonight about this? We've learned that this entire situation is bizarre, that this 19-year-old has shut down an entire city. This manhunt has caused an entire city to be shut down. Think about how many millions of dollars this has cost. Is this a run-up to martial law? Is this a possibility for that? But now, look, there are good reasons, especially if there is a legitimate threat, because we know that these Chechen terrorists, this is not an Al-Qaeda operation, by the way, but we do know these Chechen terrorists like to go after schools and children and have a high body count, or an effective body count, I should say, which is why they use the devices they used, not necessarily to take out an entire half of a town or 2 big towers, but the images have lasting effects for everyone. This is trauma-based mind control as well. If you look at the dates, if you look at the fact that this was Patriots Day, this was tax day, and of course if you look at the people who are commenting on this, and if you look at the news media, the left, the progressive left, attempting to say, well, these are Caucasian males, in their religious ideology, and their ideologies had nothing to do with this. They're just basically insane. That's what we're seeing. But what's the in the end? What's the end result here? Is the end result the government exploiting a situation and bringing out all of the troops, or is this? And could they have known something was up beforehand, given all of the information, or is this something, or is this just simply what it appears to be? My question to you is, what do you believe? Do you believe the city of Boston can be shut down? People told to shelter in place without some exorbitant threat beyond the presence of a 19-year-old suspect in a bombing? Did they do this for any other terrorist in the United States over the past several years, over the past 50 years. Have they done this? Do they do this in other countries? Frankly, I've never seen anything like this. But I think one is, and I've said this before and I'll say this again, even though it might turn out to be exactly what it appears to be, we're not wrong to be a bit gun-shy about what's taking place. And, you know, it's interesting. We understand the desire to be first with information. But doing so creates... We've seen what happens when people strive to be first with information. It's much better to wait until the government provides you, or the spokespeople, the law enforcement people, they provide you with their facts, and then we take their facts and see if it comports to what we have actually witnessed, and then we make. Then we're able to make certain decisions. But we monitor everything contemporaneously, and in the end, we then assess what is, because of the fluid nature and the dynamic nature of the situation, it's difficult to find out what's the truth and what's not. So once the government sticks to a story, says, this is my story, and I'm sticking to it. I think there was a country western song by that name. This is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Once they get to that point, then we can say, okay, this is the information documentation we have. Here's what's deficient in the story. Here's what's inconsistent in the story, and let's attack it from there, or let's verify it, or let's take a look and see what exactly is taking place. But the other end of the stick, if this is only a Chechen rebel terrorist such scenario, and they only come up with 2 or 3 or 4 suspects, then they better be looking for another 8 or 10 or 12, because this is how this is their methodology. And a lot in the Beslan school massacre, how many people remember that? The tragic events, Beslan school massacre, that these Chechen rebels, terrorists, I don't want to use the word scumbags, but that comes to mind. These people are the very people who killed these and tortured and raped children in Beslan. Folks, this is exactly what we're up against, at least if this turns out to be exactly what the authorities or the government are saying it is.
Well, then we don't have to worry about anything then, do we? Because I can tell you that ain't the case. I mean, really.
No, I understand. Look, within, you know, it's interesting because within just hours of the FBI naming both suspects, they aggressively demanded that no attention be focused on any other potential suspects. You know, and should we not? You know, it goes back to what I was saying before. The FBI attempted to actually blacklist photos which have shown men working for private military organizations wearing heavy backpacks. The very people, Joe, you pointed out, who were appearing to take part in the drill at the Boston Marathon, instead of focusing on the 2 other individuals while stating that the other photographs are not credible. And they actually launched, and we watched this in real time over a period of 48 hours. They actually launched a campaign saying that I'm sorry, thanks, Troy. Saying that I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But the people wearing the backpacks, the heavy backpacks, the boots that you described. Yeah, remember those people? Okay. Yes. When those were brought out, and even at the press con, there was a local press conference, folks. I don't know if you saw this or not. A local press conference involving the mayor, and I believe the chief of, not the mayor, He's in a wheelchair, involving the chief of police. When an attempt to question the photographs of others came up, that questioner was quickly shut down, and we're not even sure. I have not seen any footage of that repeated since. That was a live. It was like a 7-second delay broadcast, and in fact, I believe they actually cut out some of that based on that delay. But the bottom line is this:
I had that uploaded, ready to go tonight. There's a video on YouTube. I'll send it your way so you have it.
Okay. All right. Well, now, because InfoWars reporter Dan Biondi, or Bidondi, I'm sorry. Sorry, Dan. He was at the FBI press conference, and he attempted to get questions answered about the bomb drills. And he talked about eyewitnesses that said that these bomb drills were taking place during the morning of the marathon. But he was ignored. And then, to make matters worse, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but he was confronted by two really huge guys at the end of the conference. Did you happen to see that? Did that come up? Okay. But it's not only, in not only ignoring but aggressively attempting to discredit these photos, showing men who are likely employees of private security firms. And as I mentioned at the first half hour, which no one heard, Kraft International. They were on the scene of the bombing and definitely engaged in some kind of drill. The FBI signaled its intention to continue the cover-up of what really happened. So what is going on? Are we getting the truth on this? And Alex Jones had InfoWars had put up a number of images of the men dressed with the boots. And in talking with Pat Campbell, as I said, I think this was Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning. I'm not sure which. When I talked to Pat Campbell, he said his law enforcement contact could identify the boots, the trousers, the coats, even the backpacks, saying, yes, oh yes, we've got, I've got backpacks of. And these are law enforcement officers saying, here's where I got this exact same backpack. Here's where I got the I think they're tactical 511 or 501, 511 BDUs. Here's where I got the boots, their desert sand boots. And if you look at what InfoWars had put together of these images, these are the very images that the FBI are saying they're not credible. Yet there they are, and this is the morning of the bombing. And of course, there were people wearing SEAL Team 3 and SEAL Team 5 patches with their logos on either their caps or their jackets. Now, that begs some questions as well. What do they have planned next? If this was, in fact, if this has any relevance to, and it's very possible, look, folks, it's possible that this does not have relevance, or it has some peripheral significance in terms of perhaps giving them the benefit of the doubt. They were there to monitor perhaps some sort of preemptive or some sort of suspicious activity. That this drill was not really a drill, but in fact there was a credible threat, and they were there to offset the threat. That's possible. But maybe there's something more there. I just don't know. I don't know. And it's amazing, too, that we're seeing, as InfoWars reported this, we're seeing actually... in fact, this is the first time I've seen this, where you have people who will fight so strongly to just pull the plug on the InfoWars information. It's just incredible. I've never seen anything like this. And discredit, publicly discredit other places who will take the same information and run with it, even at times that are not. Even before the full story is known. So there's got to be, in the end, when all the dust settles, we're going to be able to see a little bit clearer, but hindsight is going to be our friend. Now, Joe, you've come up with a couple of other things, too. again, I know you're extremely busy over there trying to make sure things are running smoothly. How are we doing?
We're doing good. We got a lot of people over at Justin TV. I am having a problem hearing you because it sounds like it's distorted, but nobody else here is hearing that, so that's okay. But when you were talking, it was just very muffled.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I thought, was somebody calling in? Did you have some guests calling in?
Yeah. In fact, Archangel, a source who's out of country, was going to call in, but unfortunately we can't have that because of the situation with respect to phone numbers. It's a long story, but we'll have to schedule him for another time when BTR is back in full force, and we'll get his take on what the Chechnyan situation does represent. In terms of what his thoughts are, because he was the one too, folks, and don't forget this. 2 years ago, Inspire Magazine, English Language Inspire Magazine, had the plans for making a bomb in your mom's kitchen. We had published the Inspire Magazine. It may still be accessible via our website, I'm not sure. But we had taken some redacted photographs of Archangel had found, posted in February, just 2 months ago, a bomb-making instruction manual that specifically addressed pressure cookers. And the visuals within this instruction manual, I mean, better than IKEA, okay? The visuals were incredible. So I guess what I'm saying to you is we put a couple of those images up on HomelandSecurityUS.com where you can take a look. We redacted a lot of them because to not do so would be a little bit irresponsible. And I just want to tell you that Archangel has done a fabulous job. Now, in February, let me just say this, all of this information was turned over to the FBI, the U.S. intelligence agencies, as well as Interpol and other agencies. So you tell me how this could happen, too. Especially knowing what they're looking for and having a pretty sizable, even to the point of the backpack, how to put them in a backpack. Just saying, Joe. So there you have that.
With the situation that happened in West Texas, there was a regional exercise, Black Rain. Scenario: North Central Texas region is impacted by a radiological catastrophe at Comanche Peak Nuclear Power Plant. The blast and residue fallout may result in injuries and fatalities within the immediate hazard area and densely populated Detroit-Fort Worth metropolitan metroplex area is affected by blackouts and rolling brownouts due to power generation. Now, folks, I'm reading from a guide on a drill, and they're talking this drill.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you, Joe. Is this Archangel?
Yes, it is.
Okay, let me set this up. I'm going to interrupt Joe, and folks, I just want to set this up properly because this gentleman has gone to great lengths, jumped over hurdles, gone through, done somersaults, and did a lot of things, and able to, to call in to our show, and I want to thank him for that. On a night, Archangel, that we are actually having a lot of technical difficulties. There's a denial of service attack on our production studios. That said, folks, you're about to hear from a man who is probably one of the most effective and feared analysts and investigative analysts on the internet. He could take and infiltrate places that even the federal authorities and international authorities can only dream about. They go to him for information. This is the guy that had originally turned over years ago the Jihad Encyclopedia, the encyclopedia that has eluded law enforcement. I'm afraid I'm really kind of parsing my words here very carefully because I don't want to give too much away. But this is the guy who has given information that saved many, 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 many lives domestically as well as overseas. And he's a good friend of mine. He's a patriot. He is not in the United States, and that's all I'll say. But with that, and he's gotten, because of the work that he does, he's got to go by a pseudonym. And that pseudonym is fittingly Archangel. With that, Archangel, welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Well, how are you tonight, sir?
Let me check. We're a little rough around the edges, but we're doing well, man. Appreciate your calling in. Appreciate your... I gotta ask, man, what do you make of all this stuff that's going on?
You know what? It's coming at us so fast. I think what I'm most disappointed with, Doug, is all the misinformation that we've received from day one. So much speculation, all the talking heads on these news channels, and it's been a fiasco. I think they really need to just, at times, I know that the public wants information, but I think they'd rather have correct information than things just thrown out there. And from day one, that's what we've been going through. You know, I've made some little comments there in the beginning, you know, by email with you and on the phone. But, you know, I never speak in a definitive manner until we have some of the facts. All we can do is, you know, when these things happen, as far as like the blast, things like that, you know, is make comparisons to things in history. Things that have happened in the past, and you know we've been doing this since 2001. You were doing it before that, but I guess that's what I'm most disappointed with. Right now, I'm surprised to see that they took the second suspect into custody alive.
Has that been confirmed? Because I have not had the opportunity to watch the monitor as closely as I should. Do we have that second suspect alive in the hands of, of authorities?
Yeah, he's alive. I was tapped into the Boston police band and listening to it there. The news was dragging behind, but the police band was up to date, you know, as far as when they cornered him in the backyard. He's in the boat, pulling the cover off. And they were actually annoyed and talking to each other that their band was on the internet and available. So they were going to kill it, but everything transpired before they could kill the band. But yes, he is in custody. Right after that, while everybody was scrambling, they dispatched EOD over to the high school there in Watertown because they found a black bag. So I still don't know what's happening with that. But
okay.
I would say there's more than these two involved.
Best guess, because I know that you've investigated the living daylights out of this kind of stuff, and this is right up. I mean, this is right up your alley. Best guess, are we seeing the start of something, or is this just a lone group, perhaps? And I'm asking for your speculation.
Or even just an isolated incident.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I'd like to see what's going to happen in the next few days. I'd like to see what other suspects they pull into custody. The way it went down, you could tell that these two young men, they stayed around in Boston, so there was more things on the way. I think a lot of that's going to depend on, right now, with them busted, one in the hospital, one on the ground. Chances are whoever is supporting them, as you know, any of these cells, each cell member has, support members behind them. So it's hard to say. I don't know. With jihadists, you don't know. It's hard to get inside their minds and know what they're going to do next. But could anything happen? Absolutely. Things could happen tonight. Things could happen tomorrow. I'm pretty convinced, though, that there's more to it than these two.
Do you think there's more to it, given the amount of force, the number of people that we've seen, anywhere between 9,000 to 20,000 police officials, the army, virtual army we saw go after this guy? Isn't that overkill?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of pressure on them to get these people into custody and get some answers. Like 9/11,
I was surprised it took so long putting the photos out. Knowing that they already, they had the photos and they withheld those for at least a day. I was surprised to see that. You'd think they would put that out sooner. I mean, come on, 9/11. I mean, we had all the hijackers and their passports and everything the next morning, and that was 19 people. That was 19 people. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the. I just really don't know. It's how I am. I don't necessarily trust the government and what they say and what they do. What they say and what they do is often two different things. I know Obama was trying to slide some things in while all this was going on. I thought it was pretty, and I don't believe in coincidences, but I'd like to know more about the explosion down in Texas.
I'm glad you brought that up because Joe and I were talking about that over the last couple of days. That's a heck of an explosion. And, you sent me, I remember this like it was yesterday. You sent me a training video, actually, of, I believe it was a Islamic training video where they detonated it was like a 10-pound bag of an explosive mixture of the very fertilizer that exploded in Texas. But if I'm not mistaken, it had some sort of reagent or another component mixed with it to make the type of explosion or the bomb. And it was one massive explosion. But that said...
absolutely.
But I mean, I guess my question to you is, what's your gut telling you about West Texas?
Well, the thing that jumped up in my mind is I know that Obama wants to disarm the citizens, and I know that as he stood in the mirror shaving there Monday evening or Tuesday morning, he was just praying to the good Lord that, or whatever God he prays to, that it was going to be some right wing extremists. And, he'd be able to put his plans into action. The funny part was, it was so close to Waco. So it was almost like a bunch of fingers pointing in that direction. Tim McVeigh, the whole 9 yards. I'm really discouraged with how he views veterans. I'm very discouraged with how he views any opponents. Just the crap this man pulls. I'm just, as a president, I think he's a massive failure.
Coming from, coming from someone outside the United States, but whose heart is in the United States as well, that's something. And, you and I have spoken at length about all of the things taking place and even the oddities surrounding 9/11. And so to take a look, to fast forward since we first kind of met and you had been so kind to take me under your wing in certain areas now, and looking at things now, it just seems like, pardon the expression, but all hell's breaking loose right now, especially this week. The town of West Texas, my goodness, of West in Texas, that explosion, and I'm sure you've seen the video of that. Holy cow.
Well, if it was terrorism related, they would bury that right away. If you recall, after 9/11, didn't we have a gas refinery blow up in Texas?
We did. Yes, we did. And I'm not sure exactly.
If you recall that, and right away that was brushed under the carpet. They're notorious for brushing things under the carpet. The only busts that they come forward with are ones that they convinced some idiots or whatever to strap on a backpack full of fake explosives and then arrest them. So I don't know if this is a point to, because everybody's been down on the money, as far as complaining about the money spent and we're no safer. And I think this right here just illustrates that. If you're going to have terrorists out there, you're not going to stop them. These guys were, off the radar. You're the lone wolf terrorist, whatever their motive is, be it Islam or whatever, it's going to come. It's going to happen. And the part that just blows me away is we were attacked by Muslims on 9/11. And what do? We turn around and open the floodgates.
Yeah, it's not exactly.
They said on the news tonight that this guy that 2 years ago the FBI interrogated him.
Yeah, that's what
so he wasn't completely off their radar. I mean, all of that to me looks just very suspicious. I don't understand the wanting to kowtow to this Muslim philosophy. They call it a religion. It's an entire political system. I don't understand us even wanting to entertain that when when these people, anyone that's read the Quran and actually pays attention to the Quran, when it started out, it was actually very peaceful. These guys were not much more than a bunch of hippies up in the mountains. So you know what I'm saying? And then as time went on, it became more violent. Well, if you're a devout Muslim, a true Muslim, you're supposed to accept that Quran in its chronological order and not deviate from it. So anybody that says to me, well, it's a peaceful religion, no, it's not a peaceful religion. For instance, King James Version, Old Testament was kind of tough, eye for an eye. Then God made a new covenant with man, okay? So it turned the other cheek. So the Bible got mild as time went on because Jesus died on the cross for our sins, okay? Right. The Quran did exactly the opposite. And devout Muslims, they call them terrorists, I call them devout Muslims, cannot deviate from that. So when they tell me it's a peaceful religion, you're wasting your breath, okay? The last 10,000 terrorist attacks in the world, and I'm just throwing a number out there because it's actually more than that, have all been Muslim, okay? And if this Islam is such a great thing, why did you come here? Why didn't you stay in your Islamic country? Why? Because there isn't an Islamic country in the world that you'd want to live in and raise your family in. But instead, you'd rather come to the United States and come to Canada and change our way of life. I'm sorry, I don't see it that way.
Very
interesting. All right,
I'm
going to step down off my pedestal there now.
Well,
off my soapbox. You can't defeat the enemy if you won't identify him.
Exactly. Now, don't step too far off that soapbox, because I have to ask you. After 9/11, we saw this with George Bush, this embracing of the religion of peace, and of course Grover Norquist influencing the policies. Now we've got a security infrastructure that's actually being led in part by members of the Muslim Brotherhood, and that started under George Bush and was actually, it was exponentially opened by Barack Obama. My question. I mean, it can't be an accident. It can't be stupidity. It can't be incompetence. It's got to be deliberate. And if it's deliberate, why is it deliberate? What's the end game here?
The end game is, and we've talked about this, every president since Nixon, or maybe even earlier than that, has talked about this New World Order. Okay, now, if you were to bring all the countries up into a New World Order, the ones that would resist you would be Muslims. For the simple reason, if there's going to be a New World Order, they want it to be an Islamic New World Order, a caliphate. So if you look at the people that George Bush and Barack Hussein Obama have toppled, are people that would absolutely have resisted that. Okay? Who have we toppled? Saddam Hussein, Mubarak there in Egypt, Gaddafi. Okay? Assad is next. You see what's going on here?
There's a pattern, obviously.
Right. You topple the guys that would resist a New World Order, a Western-type New World Order, one world banking system, United Nations. Who are all the disturbers at the United Nations? The people that we've gotten rid of. And we're using NATO forces and our forces to topple these governments. And then what do? We turn around and stick the Muslim Brotherhood in there. It's just like in Syria. Watch the films of these rebels, the ones that we are so proud of and supporting. They're sitting at a table with an Al-Qaeda flag on it. These are the people that killed 3,000 of our people on 9/11, and now we're supporting them. I have photographs of them outfitted with M16s and U.S. military gear. So what's going on here?
Well,
that's one of the reasons.
Exactly.
That's one of the reasons, Doug. That's one of the reasons I backed out of the game, because I don't know who's who.
I remember the statement, and ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking to a gentleman who I refer to as Archangel. He's a very good analyst, terrorism and counterterrorism analyst. He's provided life-saving information about incidents and provided documentation. What are those drives? The disk drives, but they're, what do you call those drives? I'm having a senior moment here. The
hard drives, exterior hard drives.
Yeah. He's provided multiple. He's filled multiple exterior hard drives with jihadist type.
I've got trigabytes of data.
Unbelievable.
We're beyond megabytes and gigabytes. I've got trigabytes. I've got a library blow your mind. But the bottom line is, these people are out to kill us, and we're not doing anything about it.
Well, when you were talking, I saw Joe shaking his head a little bit when you were talking about the New World Order. I'm not sure exactly what he's shaking his head about, but is this? Are they using?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just disagreed to a certain extent, and maybe he was just talking about this phase of the New World Order. But I think the religion itself, whether Muslim or Christianity, is a problem to their end goal in setting up the Antichrist system. So it was like a stepping stone to the problems.
But if you look at Western countries, they're already pretty much on board with the banking systems and the United Nations, the whole 9 yards. It's always been the Islamic countries that, if there's going to be a new world order, they want it to be an Islamic new world order.
So is this kind of a means to an end? The appeasing the Islamic factor.
I'm sure it is. It's just pawns in a big chess game, man.
Yeah, I hear you. What do you think? And you and I haven't talked about this. What do you think of the Benghazi situation? I mean, as terrible as it was, but we know now that there is no consulate or no embassy in Benghazi. Our listeners know this, and that we are shipping arms to the Free Syrian Army, the anti-Assad rebels, to topple Assad. Now those weapons are coming in part instead of North Africa, but from Croatia. I mean, are we ever going to get to the bottom, get to the truth of what happened at Benghazi, or are
anybody that's going to tell the truth is going to get a bullet in their head, just like Ron Brown under Clinton. Explain to me how a plane crashes and a man ends up with a 45 in his head, 45 slug.
Well, no, and Ron Brown. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like Vince Foster. I mean, anybody that knows anything, it's going to be done away with.
No, you're exactly right. Vince Foster, we can spend a day on that.
Somebody mentioned a person in the intelligence community mentioned that to me, said that same exact thing before. Anybody who's telling the truth will be taken out. And I said, "Why are we alive?" And
we're disposable. That's why I worry about that's why I worry about you too.
Well.
Joe, yeah. I understand your dad's been telling me about you. I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Well, I'm just telling you, I've been tracking you since you was a little fella.
No, I remember my dad talking to you a long time ago.
You're the one who chipped them. You're the one that put the microchip. No.
We've been. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, no, I just want to tell the listeners how lucky and how really fortunate they are to hear. This is the first time we've heard from Archangel, and how fortunate you are to be hearing right from the mouth of the person who's done so much in the shadows, in the background, coming forth and saying what's really happening. I just want to tell people that, again, this is Archangel. This is a very, very senior analyst who probably could run circles around, if he was still alive, John O'Neill, the head of the counterterrorism
part of the FBI. But that said, you've done so much, and I do remember the time that you had said to me, "It's time to quit. I can't tell the difference between the good guys and the bad guys," and that stuck with me.
Well, you know that when I was really hot and heavy into it and working close with federal agencies, there was times, I remember one time at the Justice Department, I had a contact there, young lady, and I had sent her something. And she emailed me back and she said Seesaw Communication. And I asked her why, and she said because she had taken my stuff to her boss, and her boss said that if I had that information, I had to be one of the bad guys, because there's no way I could have that information.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, and when this president came into office, I left the country.
Wow.
Plain and simple.
And folks, that's huge. Now, let's talk about this guy real quick. And I don't know what kind of schedule you have, but who in the heck do we have in the White House? Do we even know who's there? I mean,
I don't know. I saw an email today where a VFW out somewhere out west said, "Okay, Mr. President, we're okay with background checks. Let's start with yours."
Okay.
So, I mean, that's I don't know where this guy came from. He just popped up out of nowhere. He was a junior senator. Out of one of the most corrupt areas in politics, which is Chicago area, Illinois. All the stuff that's happened there. This guy just came out of nowhere, and he did. I watched his campaign, his first campaign. He hasn't kept a single promise.
No,
there's not one thing that he said in his campaign that he's kept the promise. And it's like I said, that election and this last election, they're so upset with the Republicans over the wars that Bozo the Clown could run for office as a Democrat and they'd vote for him. And that's basically who they voted for here. I mean, this guy, look at his affiliations. He was with Jeremiah, right? The guy that said, not God bless America, God damn America. You know what I'm saying? And then he quickly distances himself from that. I don't like anything about this guy. I don't like the fact that he's really okay with these third trimester abortions. He views a child as an inconvenience.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? And you have to look at these different things, and I say evil is evil. The end doesn't justify the means, and I don't know what he's up to, but anybody can say what they want. As far as I'm concerned, he's a Muslim, and he absolutely invites the Muslims to the White House, but he backs off on, the historical Christian ties the president's had with various Christian leaders in our country.
Man, you got that right.
He's quick to go to a Ramadan dinner.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we're in the country is in the worst financial times that it's ever been in, and his wife is overseas, just pissing money away. Like flaunting in the face of the American people her expenditures. When you got people that can't even feed their families.
Exactly.
What kind of first lady is that? And then the Saudi, apparently she went to the hospital, this person of interest that had to be deported for his own safety probably, but she went to the hospital and visited the guy. And we don't even know the story on that.
Wait a second. Who went to the hospital and visited this guy?
Michelle Obama.
Okay.
This person, this Al Harvey or whatever he was, the one that initially was the suspect in the bombings. Oh yeah, she hopped her ass right over there to see him. I
did not realize that. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that in news reports today.
Holy cow!
It's just one thing after another. I think they're a disgrace to the White House. A shame on him. And sooner or later people will figure it out. But everybody's been hoodwinked. I just can't believe they vote for this guy. that's the part that floors me. But he's the one thing he has over the Republicans I noticed is the Republicans are older, and we'll call them old horses, the old guard. They don't understand social media and things like that. And the people in the inner city and things like that wouldn't trust a white guy anyway. So he really excels in that area because he has masterminds of social media working for him. So, okay, who are his voters? 18-year-old kids in the inner city. Wow.
And
that's a decision. That's a decision-making bunch. I want to run in the country. I'm 18 years old. Throw away the encyclopedias. I know everything.
But I think that's by design too. I think that's his base of obviously that's what they went after. That's what they got. The continuity of agenda, though, bothers me a whole bunch. You know, and I'm surprised that the progressives who were so anti-Bush because of his policies. When you've got Obama running the same policies as Bush has, and even amping them up in terms of drone strikes and such, and surges and what have you, where's the outrage from the progressives about Obama? There's none.
I don't know. They're so quick. They're so quick to defend him, especially in the country that I'm in. They love the guy. I won't say where I'm at, but they love the guy, and they're quick to defend him. And I've gotten in many arguments with complete strangers over it because they recognize my accent, and so they start on about Obama. And I tell them, you know what? I lived in the United States for decades. I know what a good country looks like. Things aren't good. You don't live there. You've never lived there, so shut up. You know me. Folks, you know me, Doug. I'm short and to the point.
Believe me, folks, that would be a conversation I can see taking place.
A little off subject here. What do you see with all these sinkholes, these Earth anomalies? I mean, we had a couple 7.0 earthquakes this week and a bunch of 6.0. I mean, just the increase there and in the diverse.
All I can tell people is read your Bible.
Okay.
There'll be earthquakes in diverse places. I fully expect the center of Florida to become oceanfront property. There's so many sinkholes down there, it's ready to collapse.
That's what I wanted. That's the information I was looking for. I was looking to see if you had any insight as to what can we expect along these lines further, along the natural disasters. I think it's going to get worse. You know, I don't believe in the climate change and all. They talk about what's melting at the North Pole. Well, if it's melting at the North Pole, chances are it's growing at the South Pole. You know, people talk about the Earth is going to fall off its axis and all. Okay, that's great. You know, if that's the way it's supposed to be, that's what it's going to be. But I think we're in for a lot of natural disasters. I honestly don't think that God blesses the country here like he used to. The North American country.
Right.
I just don't think so.
Yeah, you know? I sense the veil of protection being lifted because of a number of reasons. Oh, man, we are in a world of hurt. I got to ask you, you know, you've seen the exponential increase in attempts to take away our Second Amendment rights, having been lived in this country. Where do you see this ending up? I mean, we saw the gun control legislation take a dive this week. Obama kicked and moaned and pounded his fists and looked like he was going to cry. What's the next step?
I don't understand the logic except that he's trying to disarm the people, because the bottom line is criminals are always going to have guns. So the more you restrict, the more you make it difficult, you know, for people to obtain weapons and all. You know, the criminals are always going to have guns. I remember down there in Florida, when I lived down there, Governor Bush, Jeb Bush, actually they passed a law down there in Florida where you could defend yourself. You could defend your life if your life was in danger. You know, they really loosened the law on that, and you didn't have to wait for the person to enter your house to defend yourself. And crime dropped overnight. Home invasions practically stopped. You have to be able to defend yourself against the bad guys. Unfortunately, we're a gun culture. That's just the way it is. You can't unring that bell. Live with it. And the whole purpose of the weapons was to keep the government in check, and I think that's what terrifies them every day, is the fact that you've got a lot of veterans out there that are trained, that own weapons, and then you've got your regular civilians that never served a day in the military but understand what freedom is. And when it's going to be really interesting if they ever actually try to confiscate weapons, because you've seen the cases where, I think it was Utah, where the Sheriff's Association sent a letter to the White House and said, if you come out here to disarm our citizens, you will have to go through us.
Right.
And that's from law enforcement. And in Texas, they feel the same way. That's a very dangerous road. And what are they going to use, federal troops, to go out and do this? Are those federal troops actually going to do it? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, there's always going to be some clown that no matter what's going to do it for the paycheck. We've seen that for years. We've seen people, do stupid things just because they were close to retiring. I remember dealing with federal agencies and all, and I couldn't get them to do something because they were afraid to do it, because I'm getting ready to retire. I don't want to rock the boat. Well, I'm sorry. Sometimes you need to rock it.
True. Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, I've got to tell you some of the most just incredible stories that Archangel could tell you. It would just curl your hair.
Remember predict when I was at your house. I was visiting you when Skip Callahan. I came to see him before he died, and we were talking, and I had put something in writing about that London would be attacked next.
That's right.
They were attacked the next morning.
Exactly. And if I recall correctly, the information that you had was pretty precise.
We were tracking. We were tracking things. Actually, over on Asian servers, files. We were finding files over there.
Right.
And they mysteriously shut all those down. We used to get tons of information out of Asian servers. Tons of file repositories. That's where all the jihadists were storing their stuff. But it seemed like any time that we would actually go after the jihadists or have a good line on them online, I mean, I'm still in every forum, Al-Qaeda forum there is. To this day, I'm there. And I don't even really mess with this anymore. But when this bombing happened, first thing I did was log in and start checking. And we discussed that. I sent out an email that said it was very similar to, the 2004 killing of the Chechen president.
Right.
Just simply by the way the bomb was deployed, it was a low yield kill. Wasn't very sophisticated, but I didn't say it was Chechens. I just said this is very similar.
Right.
But it's been like that for years. When they were tracking the DC sniper, I told them what the kid's forum name was. He was on the forums, and this is way back in the original Al-Qaeda forums, but he was on there and he was using the moniker 1985. I couldn't get an FBI guy or anybody anywhere to acknowledge that. But I was sitting there reading the message. I was sharing those messages with you.
Yeah, that's right.
When they told,
right.
Yeah, remember they were telling them to zigzag, and I mean, we were practically predicting where the kid was going to hit next. And amazingly, he was born in 1985.
Yeah, isn't that something? And they did turn out to be Muslim, of course, and of course, the DC snipers. If you ask the average person on the street, I don't even think they'd equate that to Muslim terrorist or anything. It's just incredible how things have not progressed but devolved from where we were. So
I mean, you and I don't talk. You and I don't talk about it openly, but we could tell people stories that would just fry their minds. If you think back all the years you and I have been running together, we could tell some stories that would probably keep people awake at night. But we've learned to roll with it, and unfortunately, we also know that it seems like within the government there's good, and then there's some offices that are very bad. Yeah, and I don't know what their agendas are, and I don't know who's who.
And that's sad. At this point, that is extremely sad when we can't figure it out. Well,
absolutely. It's one of the reasons I backed out was I don't want to feed information that's going to, because going into the Iraq War, I fed tons of information in. We won't get into details. You know what I'm talking about. And I heard those same things brought up in hearings while they were trying to convince people to go to war. And then I got to thinking about that, and I thought, I aided in that. In what I consider today to be an illegal war. And that troubled me. But at the time I was doing what was requested of me, I thought I was doing the right thing. And, in hindsight, I look back and maybe there's some information I shouldn't have sent.
And ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you contemplate on what was just said, because that's a pretty heavy statement to make when you actually believe you're doing the right thing. You do what's asked of you. You provide information. You hear that same information parroted in hearings,
yeah.
In hearings, yeah, and then bam.
And see, that's how I think 98% of the government works. They're good people doing a job, and they don't understand the compartmentalization or the plans of the evil people that are above them.
Exactly. No, exactly. You can't. No one's ever going to be able to explain to me how they were running drills on 9/11 for aircrafts going into buildings. You're never going to, and then turn around and same thing in London. They're running drills for attacks on buses, and then it happens. I mean, these aren't coincidences. I don't believe in coincidence. And the guy, if you remember the guy in London, he was working for the security company that was running the drills, and he was on the radio. Boy, they pulled him off the radio fast.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're sitting back and you're looking at this and you're going, "What the hell is going on here?"
Well, that brings us to the marathon. I've been hearing, and basically,
there's witnesses that have came out and said as much. The
drills taking place.
Yep.
Before
and after.
But how can that? But I asked both of you, how can that be? You know what I'm saying? I mean, someone is handing out inside information. That's what I'm saying. It's a tug of war within the government. You've got, everybody knows there's a couple intelligence agencies. People don't really realize how many intelligence agencies there are in our government. In the United States government, they don't realize how many are there, and I don't know what the agenda is. I don't. When we first went into Iraq and Afghanistan, I was convinced that we were trying to get position on Iran, and I still think that because now we have air bases within striking distance of Iran. Well, I'm no fan of Iran by any stretch of the imagination. I think they would, they say, well, they don't have nuclear weapons. Well, they have nuclear weapons. They just don't have nuclear weapons that will reach us. If you're trying to tell me that out of all those things they have underground, first of all, we're making a judgment on something we can't see, but you can't tell me that they don't. I mean, the Russians and North Koreans obviously have shared that information with them. I mean, Iran has a pocketbook that can buy anything. And then you have all this crap about Iran and their nuclear weapons. What about Pakistan? There's a bunch of fruitcakes for you. You know what I'm saying? They've got a nuclear arsenal that would scare everybody. How come we're not putting pressure on them?
Well, I get this, and I guess the really big thing for me, and I think for Joe too, is we looked into Chris Stevens as an ambassador to Libya, and then his dealings with the Turks. in Benghazi, and then the whole Benghazi incident. We're not getting the truth there, and then us yipping at going against Syria, and fighting a proxy war essentially with Russia. And then, you know what? If you take and superimpose the economic aspect of this, as you mentioned, to the banks and stuff, there's just this huge three-dimensional chess game at play here, and it's you're right. So we have positioning,
and we're the pawns.
Yes,
that's the thing. It's just like we don't make our decisions anymore. My wife, I was explaining to her the Electoral College of the United States. And she about pissed herself laughing. Okay, she said, "Well, wait a minute. You guys, you vote, but then there's this group of people that actually elect the president." And I said, "Well, yeah." And then she about died laughing when she saw my voter registration card and actually had my party affiliation on it. Well, I'd never noticed that. And she looked at it and she goes, "Oh my God, they know who you are. They know who you vote for." And I was like, well, I never really paid any attention to that. But the whole voting system in the U.S., as far as I'm concerned, is a sham. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that any of those numbers are accurate. Okay, so who's making the decisions? You and I have talked about this a million times. The president's just a front man for something else.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And who's running things?
That's what I want to know. And I think it's the bankers and the powers behind the scenes. Are we ever going to change that? Yeah, no, probably not. They have the money and we don't. We're just the po folk. We support these clowns. They tax us into submission, and that doesn't matter. That's every country you live in, buddy.
Well, that's true, and it's gonna turn into one. And I was just reading today too on, I don't know if it was Silver Doctors or Zero Hedge or one of the economic forums where, the commodities prices are fixed, and according to my sources, it's all, we're going to end up like, the entire world is going to end up basically like Cyprus, where we're just going to get like dandelions growing out of a lawn. The higher we grow,
We're living on the world's goodwill in the U.S. For the simple reason is the U.S. dollar is the worldwide currency. If you're in Germany and you want to buy Saudi oil, you got to do it in U.S. dollars. Sooner or later, somebody's going to pull that plug. And when that does, the U.S. is going to go down hard. And everybody says, we've talked about this many times. I think that they would love to make the U.S., Obama and his pal, Bill Ayers, and the idiots that he consults with, they'd love to make it a socialist government. And people say, well, that can't happen. Well, yes, it can happen. Russia used to probably be a great place to live. China might have been a great place to live at one time. You know what I'm saying? It happened. It can happen anywhere. And when the U.S. falls, man, it's going to take the rest of the world with it. It's a matter of time. Look what happened. Look what happened to prices this week on gold and things like that with this bombing. They can manipulate the market with this stuff.
Oh, the market.
I want to know. I want to know who made money on this deal.
Yeah, I do. I do as well. And by the looks of things, it wasn't you and I, and certainly
no. I can log into the bank and tell you that, buddy.
Yeah.
There's probably money missing.
But it's the bankers closest to the printing presses or the digital accounting systems that are making the money, because they're the ones that are actually forcing the paper futures. And I read the explanation, and I got to thinking that, man, what a scam this whole thing is. And they're actually convincing people that to sell gold and silver, physical gold and silver, knowing, of course, that if everyone called for their physical holdings that they have on paper, there'd be a problem.
Doug, why would anybody buy gold on paper? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't get that either. I never
You know
really
what I mean?
understood
These idiots couldn't hold a mortgage market together, and we're going to trust them with gold and silver purchases on paper.
Oh,
I don't
man.
think so.
Well, you got
What's
that.
up with what's up with the HS and all the bullets?
Well, you
all
tell me. You
Well,
tell me. You
Jenna
tell us.
Napolitano said they use 125 to 160 million rounds a year for training, and they were getting a 5-year supply.
Oh,
But
okay.
that still
So
doesn't
how
add
come we
up.
didn't see? I was a businessman in Florida, and I used to do business and check bids and all on TSA websites and all. There were no ammunition, things like that, not those kind of purchases. Now, there's something else going on there, and the type of rounds.
Sure.
That's something evil this way comes, and the bottom line is, and this is I guess the part that scares me. You and Joe are out here on the radio doing this thing, and this is a wonderful thing you're doing. I think God's finally blessing you for it. I really do. I think it's going to get better for you. But I look at all the people that know what's going on is wrong and won't do anything about it. They don't know how to go about doing it. They don't know how to organize and get things back. Get the country. The country needs to be taken back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody. But here's the bad part. If we were to do that, we would be criminals.
Well, we already are by definition, being Christian and being outspoken.
Right, but look at our forefathers. They were willing to risk everything. But you look around today, nobody's willing to risk anything.
And people have a lot less today than they did then, really, if you think about it. Because we're not talking in materialistic terms. Well, I mean, the land, the families. People today value things of no value more than they value things of...
Exactly. Everything's about what you own now.
A value on, yeah.
Yeah, but the forefathers of what used to be the greatest nation on earth risked everything, gentlemen. Everything. Their lives, their families, their wealth, their homes. I mean, you can believe that the King of England had a price on their heads.
Exactly.
We're not even willing to vote properly to clean the mess up. We're a sorry bunch of son of a guns.
What do we do? What
do we do?
Yeah, what do we do? I mean...
Well, the first thing they need is maybe some Republicans to come up on the ticket that are worth a damn. You know what I'm saying? Look what they gave us. I don't know. They need to dig a little bit, but you look at when they had Palin and that McCain guy. I looked at that ballot and I said, "This is the best we got."
Yeah.
You guys, out of 300 and some odd million people, this is what you came up with. Nice job. And then Mitt Romney. I like Mitt Romney. I really do. Most people are kind of freaking out because of his religion. But so what? You're kissing Islam's ass. What's wrong with this guy? I don't care about his religion. What I care about is the fact the man is a businessman that knows how to make $20 million a year personally. I want to see like a Lee Iacocca in the White House.
Okay.
We need a manager in the White House.
Right. Right.
You got to pull a Reagan back in or somebody like that. Somebody that understands money and management. And Obama, he's running us further in the toilet. It's just unbelievable. His war strategies are ridiculous. Telling the Taliban when we're going to leave Afghanistan. That's brilliant. You see what I'm saying, And then this thing where I can kill Americans overseas with no jurors or anything like that just because you're perceived as right. Well, we know the media controls everything, so I guess if they got on and Doug, you were visiting South Africa on a charity mission or something and they perceived you as a threat, they could just send a drone over and hit you with a Hellfire missile because the president said it was okay.
I think they have the authority to do that domestically now, too.
Yeah, I mean, when do you see that, and do you see that happening here in the States from your perspective out of the country? Can you see a point in time where the conditions would be right for the use of a drone
Well, it could, because it's simple. Remember the census a few years back? They actually did GPS coordinates on the houses. Now, that would kind of bother me, because they should have, if you look, look at a map, I mean, you should be able to do your own grid coordinates on properties.
Right.
If you look at a plot plan, everything's there. Why do you need GPS at the front of somebody's house? A GPS reading for a census? Come on. And you want to know why I left the country? Yeah, right. Some of the things I say, yeah, I could just see them nuzzle with my name on it, brother.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that I'm sure that I'm sure that there would be some issues with you being in the country. Oh my goodness! Oh my gosh!
Well, so I just vanished and went back to regular life, and I'm a regular guy now. But there when people need me, and when this happened, my emails lit up. I was asked for help, and I am American first and foremost. I do love the country. I love what the country was. I think the country could be a good country again, except, it takes men and guts to make things happen. And I just don't see that. I mean, even the Christians, they used to be a really driving force in the United States. Just the Christians themselves, the churches, and they had a lot to do with who got voted in and all, and they've gotten weak. You see what I'm saying? Where are the men?
Right.
Now I know somebody's going to say, "Oh well, okay, where are the men? You left the country." About me. That's fine. I had my reasons, but I'm still there for the U.S. I've always protected the country and whatever I could do.
Right.
I used to remember when this whole internet thing started, right after 2001, I got laughed at. I got ridiculed for trying to tell them these people are communicating on the internet.
Yeah.
Now there's companies that make a ton of money just off of what's on the internet site, Institute, Intel Center. I was doing it before those guys were. I mean, some of them were probably still deciding whether they wanted Twinkies or ding-dongs in their lunchbox when I was doing this. Think about it, Doug. If you and I had been together, we could have got $2 million a year in funding. We could have hired a crack staff. There wouldn't be anything on the internet going on that we didn't know about.
Yeah, but whether or not that would have made a difference, in terms of,
probably not. They would have probably filtered our information and said, "Hey, we're paying you, so we're only going to use what we want." So, how do you win, buddy?
Yeah, it's just it's kind of a ridiculous scenario, just how everything has turned since 2001, since the very beginning of your starting in this and watching it in your evolution in this counterterrorism. My goodness, you've seen so many changes. At this point, I'm just not sure. Obviously, we can't walk this back. We can't walk we can't walk back where we've gone. I think that we're headed for an economic collapse, the likes of which we've never seen. I think, and that's going to be global. I think that we're headed for domestic martial law to the extent that, the Islamic terrorism is going to be a component to that, a workable component where people, So I mean, look, and you and I are on the same page, just about on everything.
They'll use the terrorist activity to take away more liberties. The Patriot Act and things like that. I was really disappointed with that. I think Benjamin Franklin warned us against that, didn't he? Didn't he say that we wouldn't be any safer by giving up our liberties? We didn't gain more freedom by giving up liberty.
Well,
and he's absolutely correct. It just, great. We got the camera in the furniture store that caught these two guys on camera. Okay, but I don't necessarily like cameras everywhere.
No, I agree with you.
Things like that bother me. Is it great? It's like wanting to put chips in your kids. You know, I'm not going to put a chip in my kid. Yeah, if anything ever happened to her, yeah, I'd love to know where she's at, but I'm not going to put a chip in her. That's a violation of her privacy.
That's
you know, and then what happens if she's a patriot and needs to be on the run because of an oppressive government? I don't need them following her with a chip.
No.
You know, all these things that they are protecting us are things that are going to be used against us.
Well, that's just it, and I see that. Well, we see it happen. This whole development of this infrastructure of security that's turned in upon us, and you know, I mean, I think we both were kind of in the same boat where we're after 2001, we wanted to just go after the very people who were, you know, who attacked us and be good Americans.
Still do. I still do, Doug. Problem is, I don't know who they are.
I couldn't have said that better. I mean, that's where I was.
I'd love to bring the people to justice that have hurt the United States. I just don't know what office they're in.
Oh man, you meant to say that, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely.
I know.
I know. I mean, if you look back over time, I mean, we've been laughed at, ridiculed, and everything else, but we do what we got to do, man.
Yeah, we actually do, my friend. We actually do.
You know,
well,
and I think you two are on the right track. I really admire what you're doing. I talked to your wife, Flora. I actually called you, so she said she was okay with everything. So, but I do think you're going to be. I think you're going to be doing some landscaping this summer. She said sometimes she just got to get out of the house, man. And I will make arrangements to come and see you, my friends.
Well, we'll do so. I've got to tell you, it's been such a pleasure talking with you, and I know the audience is enthralled with just your the mystique persona of Archangel, but more importantly, the effectiveness in the realms in which you operate, and the undercover nature, and how much you've turned over, the volumes, the stuff you've turned over to save lives in the theaters, and whether it be Iraq, Afghanistan, or wherever.
I look back at it, and a lot of time and a lot of my personal money's been in it. I mean, I've been compensated by various, whatever. I won't go into any details, but nothing to the near, not even close to what my expense was in time, relationships, things like that. And but if it saved a life, then we'll do it again.
Yeah, and I know you, and I know the extent, or a little bit of the extent of that. And I got to tell you that having a paper route probably would have been more profitable for you.
At times, yes.
But I got to tell you, I don't think I've met a more non-American person than in you. I mean, you're an American, but physically not present.
Well, people, I just want people to know that no matter what, as long as I'm breathing, I'll be on Overwatch.
Oh, that's more than anyone could ask for, certainly. And knowing you, you're like a pit bull on a ham bone, man. I'll tell you, you get on something. I've never seen anything like that. But I know you're going to be following a lot of these situations close, of course, whether it be the Boston case or even the explosion in the town of West in Texas, or whatever it might be, and even the Ryson situation, which is kind of came out of left field, but don't forget the anthrax.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. September 11th, we had the anthrax theory pretty well figured out and sent that to Mueller. He didn't want to hear anything about it.
Of course not.
No, we worked it out chronologically, the whole 9 yards, and I'm absolutely to this day convinced that that he sent those letters from New Jersey, dropped them in a weekend box.
Yep.
They didn't get processed. I'm telling you, to my dying day, I will stick to that theory.
Yeah, and to those
I think they wrecked some good people's lives over that.
Oh, they did. I mean, much like the Olympic bomber the Olympic bomb that went off, and they went after Richard Jewell, who
did everything right, and they ruined his life. And if people could see the amount of documentation that was compiled and analyzed by Archangel, my goodness, you would be convinced just on the executive summary by itself that those anthrax letters.
The main thing in those letters was that the A's and the T's were in bold.
Yeah.
And I always said Otta signed his own letters.
Yeah.
ATPA. You go back and look at those letters. They're still on a website somewhere, I'm sure. And look at the A's and the T's. And he misspelled Israel out of disrespect to Israel.
Actually, that's true. And in fact, I still have that file, which is compiled with your work. And it's interesting how the government just poo-pooed that. Absolutely.
Well, they have a habit of overlooking the obvious, and they're only going to go with a theory that fits what they need it to fit. Exactly. And that's plain and simple. It's I used to be so lifetime in the forums that when that ambassador in Jordan got killed, we knew about it a week ahead of time. Lawrence Foley, my people knew about it. They were told about it. They did nothing about it. I knew one day before I left for work that a bunch of Israeli settlers were going to be murdered that day. And I contacted my people. They did nothing. When I came home that night, it was on the news that those settlers had been murdered. So,
wow.
There's good, and there's bad. There's a lot of stuff that I think about before I go to sleep.
Wow. Well, I can tell you this: you've got nothing to be ashamed of looking in the mirror. Your integrity is 100% intact. It's unfortunate that many people cannot.
Yeah, well, I don't feel I dropped the ball. I just know where we've dropped the ball.
Yeah. No, that's very true. My gosh.
People that are entrusted to protect us, unfortunately, are the ones that we fear.
Boy, that's a statement and a half. Indeed. Well, my friend, I'll tell you what, we're getting just ready to close out the program. We've only got about 13 minutes left, but we're going to cut you loose early.
Leave some room for your other callers so they can call in and bitch about me.
I don't think. No, we're actually hobbled by the system, so it's not going to. Even if there were any, they couldn't do that. But no, it's just been a pleasure talking to you, and I know that our by the emails I've gotten, by the messages I've gotten, they want you back again. And especially your take on things like 9/11 and even more into the.
We'll look at that. We're going to look at this Boston bombing very closely, Doug.
Yeah, that was the other thing. They want to hear more about your thoughts about Boston as well. So we're going to have you back. But I just want to say, Archangel, you got to be safe out there, and
always.
Wear that Mylar covering so you don't get droned out of existence. The tinfoil, whatever.
Make sure there's no GPS on my vehicle. All right, my friend. Listen, you and Joe be safe. We'll talk again.
All right. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much for the call.
It was nice talking to you.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Good night, guys. Good night, guys.
Good night. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Archangel. I'll tell you what, class act from start to end, and he is a great guy. So
it's been a long time since, I don't know, 2002, 3, 2004, maybe the last time I heard that name from your mouth. Maybe a little bit later than that, but it's been a long time.
Oh, I think you've heard it from my mouth.
No, I mean, I know him from you. Right. But it's been a long time since.
So I think it's been a long time since you and I have actually spoke about the depth of information that he's conveyed. But I got to tell you though, he's on the one statement that haunted me. That really haunted me was when he said, I just can't tell the good guys from the bad guys anymore. It was almost as if I don't know, a light went off, and it's like, holy cow. It's incredible. We just don't know who's who, what's going on. But that's just...
It's been such a crazy week as far as news and things happening. Full of disinformation with some truth mixed in there. And I'm talking about the mainstream news, mostly all disinformation. But we will be... well, I better say this first. I will be doing some research this weekend. I'll be making some YouTubes, hopefully publishing them. My father, it's his birthday this weekend. Sunday, Monday.
Turn of the big 4-0 this weekend.
4-0?
Something
I
like that.
thought it was like 36. I mean, the way you look.
Yeah, well.
No,
like
but
catcher's mitt.
Tomorrow night we're going to have Steve Quayle and Pastor David Langford on. And I don't know how many shows are done on Blog Talk on a Saturday. Hopefully nobody. And then maybe we can have it all to ourselves if it even works still. But we're going to have them on. And it's going to be a fantastic show from 9 to midnight Eastern Time. Monday. Yeah. First hour, we're going to be joined, I think, by Lori from Lori's Talk News Radio. But
yeah,
you'll be
I won't be here on Monday. Monday's actually going to be my day where I'm going to take my day and spend it with my wife, and because it's her birthday as well.
Yeah,
go figure, right?
I get the birthdays one day apart.
Yeah, so we're just gonna take the day, and normally I don't like to take days off from the radio, but the last time I couldn't even, I was seeing monkeys, but from being sick. But so Monday I won't be here. Tomorrow, Pastor Langford, as you said, and Steve Quayle on hopefully on BTR on that platform, so we can get that back up and running. If not, those listening to this broadcast. I don't know if there's an if not programmed here.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah, in fact we will.
If we have to just reschedule it to a better day when things are back to normal, or we find another outlet, we'll do that. But we're not going anywhere. We're
not going anywhere.
Talking somewhere.
And I got to tell you, it's amazing how many people are telling me that we're not on Blog Talk right now, as if I didn't know that. So, but anyway, what can I tell you? It's just one of those things. But wow.
Yeah. Hopefully we can. You can work on the website, get some articles up. I want to get some YouTubes done, because I got information we were not able to cover because we were not able to play the clips, and I had some stuff set up for today. I was going to lay out some important information that everybody's missing during all the hype stories going on, the CISPA bill, and other things. But I'll try to do that in a different way this weekend, and maybe get that done. Yeah, maybe actually do something. No, I'm kidding.
Maybe actually
publish something.
There you go. It's like every time I see him, he's doing research, but where's the product of that research? Oh, I don't know. It's missing.
Oh, it's all here. It's just it's so odd, because the way things change, as far as I get into something changes, and
I know how that goes.
It's a matter of me focusing properly on things I need to focus on, and leaving other things alone.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks. We want to thank a great big thank you to Christians United Broadcasting Network in Troy. That's Christians United Broadcasting Network in Troy, and of course you've been listening to this broadcast on the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. Unless you haven't been, in which case you're not even listening to me now, so why am I talking? But it's been fun. It's been fun talking with you. It was a wild talk with Archangel. The guy is an incredible man. I've met him in person. He's got a heart of gold. He traveled well over 1,000 miles when one of our staff members was diagnosed with cancer, just to see him before he died, and spent some time and just a great man, a great heart, and an intelligent man with a lot to offer, the counterintelligence agency. And it's funny that sometimes they just don't want to hear. It's amazing. But with that, I just want to say I believe we've reached the end of our program. We can cut it a little bit short this evening because of the technical difficulties. But I want to say thank you for your patience. And I know listener fatigue, when there's issues like this, comes, it takes a lot to stick with a couple of guys trying to get the word out. And
we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. We really do. And we'll certainly not only be in practical preparation, but prayer that we can get these problems resolved. So,
God bless each and every one of you. Have a great night. We will see you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.